the summer of 1980-something, Nelson Mandela died in a prison cell on Robben Island. Television carried the funeral. There were riots. His widow gave a speech that silenced a stadium. Millions of people remember watching this. Some can describe the news anchor's face. Here is the problem. Mandela walked free in 1990, became president of South Africa, and died in 2013, at home, at 95, in front of the whole world. A normal memory error fades. This one has more detail than the truth. It comes with footage. In 2009, at a convention in Atlanta, a researcher named Fiona Broom mentioned Mandela dying in prison. Nobody corrected her. The man she was talking to remembered it too, and so did strangers on forums. She named it the Mandela effect, and people started checking their other memories. The errors they found kept getting bigger. A death was the start. Next, a spelling. Millions grew up with a children's book series about a bear family, certain it was spelled Berenstein. Every copy ever printed says Berenstain. Some even remember being corrected, as kids, toward the version that never existed. Then an entire movie. A mid-90s comedy about a genie granting wishes to two kids, played by the comedian Sinbad. People remember the VHS box, the shelf at the video store, the sleepover. It was never made. Not lost. Never made. Thousands of people share detailed memories of 2 hours that never happened. A death, a spelling, 2 full hours of film. Something is producing shared, detailed memories of things that never occurred, and there are only 2 candidate explanations, both bad news. One group points 100 meters under Geneva, the largest machine ever built, a ring that smashes atoms together, switched on in 2008, right when these memories start disagreeing with the world. They believe it moved us. Literally. That you are not living in the universe you were born in. The other candidate is your own memory. The thing you used to prove where you were and what you saw, manufacturing the past and stamping it as real. Whichever way you lean, it has to explain the scale. Darth Vader never said, "Luke, I am your father." The line is, "No, I am your father." The evil queen says, "Magic mirror on the wall," not mirror, mirror. The Monopoly man has no monocle. Pikachu's tail has no black tip. Each one alone is trivia. Together they are not, because the wrong version is shared. Ask a room of strangers to spell the bears, and the room agrees on the same wrong answer. Millions of people, wrong in the same direction, like a crowd misreading the same clock. And believers can answer the obvious objection. If we slid over from another universe, the old world should have left fingerprints. They say it did. They call it residue. In 1973, the jazz flutist Frank Wess released an album called Flute of the Loom. The cover parodies the underwear brand. Fruit spilling from a cornucopia, a woven horn of plenty. Millions swear the real logo had that horn. The company says never, in any decade. A fair question. If the horn never existed, what was that cover parodying? I have to be careful here, because I remember the horn. The brown weave behind the apples. I've read the company's denial. The picture in my head hasn't moved. As for what could shuffle a world, that machine under Geneva is the Large Hadron Collider, built to recreate the first split second after the Big Bang. Its physicists publish papers about extra dimensions and parallel worlds. In those words, you barely have to bend that into a confession. A machine built to touch other universes switches on, and millions start remembering a different world. That's the case at full strength. Shared errors, specific details, physical residue with a 1973 copyright date, and a machine with the right job description and the right start date. Start with the machine, the easiest claim to check. The collider is a 27-kilometer ring that smashes 2 protons together at nearly the speed of light. And that collision, the most violent event humanity can engineer, carries about the energy of 1 flying mosquito. The trick is concentration. That bump squeezed into a space a trillion times smaller than the mosquito. Enough to make strange new particles for a fraction of a second. Not enough to knock over a coffee cup in the cafeteria upstairs. And the theory dies on something simpler. The calendar. If the switch happened in 2008, the wrong spelling shouldn't exist in ink before 2008. It does, constantly. Newspapers misspelled the bears as Berenstein for decades, while the authors, Stan and Jan Berenstain, were alive to be annoyed. Every misprint taught more readers the wrong name. The residue isn't evidence of the old universe. It's the delivery system for the error. Same with the cornucopia. A woven horn spilling fruit is simply how a pile of fruit gets drawn. Thanksgiving tables, harvest posters. The 1973 album wasn't copying a logo. It grabbed the same picture every brain grabs. The artist and your memory made the identical mistake, 50 years apart. Now look at the whole list. Every glitch bends toward the familiar. Stein is how names end. Einstein, Frankenstein. The monocle is borrowed from Mr. Peanut, a nearly identical top-hatted mascot who really has won. Pikachu's tail tip is borrowed from his own black-tipped ears. A universe swap could scramble anything. A green Pikachu, a bear family named the Hendersons. It never does. Every single error is a pull toward the familiar. Only one machine fails in that direction, and it is not in Geneva. Which brings back the Genie movie, where the brain gets caught in the act. In 1996, there really was a Genie movie. Chasm, starring Shaquille O'Neal, 7 feet of basketball player granting wishes to a lonely kid. It flopped, but it existed. Now add Sinbad. In the mid-90s he was everywhere. In 1994 he hosted a TV marathon of Sinbad the Sailor movies dressed as a genie. Bald head, vest, the whole costume. And the name Sinbad comes from the Arabian Nights. The brain cooked those ingredients into one dish. Psychologists call it source confusion. In plain words, memory keeps the picture and throws away the receipt. It kept the genie, kept Sinbad, kept the video store shelf, and stapled them into one movie, because separately they're clutter and together they are a story. Your brain would much rather store a story. People even agree on the title. Shazam. 1 letter off from Chasm. Tell someone who remembers Shazam that it never existed, and they defend it. The more they're pushed, the more details they produce. Remembering isn't pressing play. It's rebuilding the scene from pieces, every single time, and under pressure the rebuild gets more vivid, not less. You can watch certainty being manufactured live, and the person doing it feels nothing. This is measurable. In 2022, University of Chicago researchers showed people famous characters next to subtly altered versions. On certain images people failed massively, in the same direction, choosing the black-tipped Pikachu tail that never existed. Even people who barely knew Pokémon made the same error. Shared, specific false memories, switched on with a slideshow. No collider required. And in 2017 the internet closed the loop. A comedy site shot a fake Shazam scene as an April Fool's joke, starring Sinbad himself, in the costume. There is now footage of the movie that never existed. We didn't slide into that universe. We got impatient and manufactured the residue ourselves. All of this could still be an accident, memories blending on their own. In 1995, the psychologist Elizabeth Loftus and her student Jacqueline Pickrell tried to plant a memory on purpose. They gave 24 people 4 short stories from their own childhood. 3 were real, collected from their families. The 4th was invented. As a small child, you got lost in a shopping mall, cried, and an elderly stranger brought you back. It never happened, but it arrived among real stories from your own family, so it walked straight in. 2 weeks and a few interviews later, a quarter of them remembered it. Not went along with it. Remembered it. The fear, the relief. One filled in the old man's flannel shirt. Details nobody supplied, wearing the same "this really happened" stamp as their real childhood. Later experiments planted a childhood hot air balloon ride with 1 faked photo. About half came to remember it. Here is where I stand. Nobody switched your universe. Every clue points away from Geneva, toward a memory that was never a recording in the first place. Remembering is an act of imagination, disciplined by facts where facts exist, free to invent where they don't. And the feeling of certainty comes off the same assembly line as the memory itself. The counterfeiter and the inspector are the same person. That's why you can't catch it from the inside. Faced with a spelling error, we invented swapping universes, a story where our memories stay perfect and reality takes the blame. We walked past the real miracle to build a fake one. The real one. 3 pounds of tissue rebuilds your entire past from scratch every time you look at it, and gets it right so often you never catch the seams. You have never replayed a moment of your life. You have been repainting it, from memory, the whole time. What none of this explains is why the memories are so hard to give up. Sinbad has spent years telling people the movie doesn't exist, and they argue with him, to his face. I don't think they're stupid. Giving up the memory feels like giving up the sleepover, the friend on the carpet next to you. The facts only ask them to relabel a memory. It feels like deleting one. So tell me yours. A memory someone you love insists happened differently, and you're both certain. Put it in the comments. I'll go first, in the pinned comment. And if you like stories where the boring explanation is stranger than the conspiracy, subscribe. That's what we do here.